Welcome to the Grandpa Channel, where stories don't fade, they get recorded. I'm Steve Harris. My grandkids call me Rivers. This podcast is where grandpas and grandchildren pull up a chair, turn on a mic, and let her rip. Grandpa stories are chock full of wisdom, life lessons, and frankly, funny as hell. Your stories are the magic elixir to help your grandkids navigate Mr. Toad's wild ride, aka life. Let's Grandpa. This episode of the Grandpa Channel is brought to you by Hires Big H, home of wonderful hamburgers, French fries, onion rings, the magical and medicinal, so I say, root beer freeze. Head to Hires and treat yourself like the legend that you are. Now back to the channel. Good afternoon and welcome to the Grandpa Channel. We have an amazing guest on today, Donald Wainwright, a friend of mine.
Well, as you mentioned, Steve, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. That's where I grew up. Left there and a few years ago when I still had hair. Ended up joining the Air Force. Did a little traveling, but got married, a couple of kids. That didn't work out too well. Got remarried and married a woman with 8 kids and 32 grandkids.
32 grandkids.
That's correct.
It's pretty amazing. Do you know all their names and their birthdays?
Okay. I know all the names, but I keep a good calendar of birthdays.
I didn't mean to put you on this.
No, that was...
So what's the age range of the grandkids?
The oldest is 58. The youngest is... He'll be 10 this year.
Oh.
So wide range.
Tell us a little bit about you growing up. Did you know your grandfathers? And if you did, tell us a little bit about them.
On my father's side, my grandparents died before I was even born. As a matter of fact, they died when my father was real young. Uh-huh. And my a great aunt actually raised me. Uh-huh. And I was going to raised him. And I called her grandma. On my mother's side, my grandparents were actually divorced, and my grandmother remarried, and so he was a nice guy. He was a really nice guy, but he was not what I would call the grandpa image. But he was a really nice guy, really nice guy.
Tell us about what it was like growing up in Baltimore. It's not exactly suburbia or 101.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I had a wonderful time growing up.
Did you?
School I went to was fabulous. Junior high school, I thought the best teachers in the world. The best teachers in the world. But I heard an expression years ago, Steve, that said, when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. And for me, there was a handful of teachers there at junior high school. Excellent. They're the ones where I really felt they helped me get my identity. Uh-huh. They were a big part of that.
How did they do that?
They challenged me to be Donald. They challenged me to be Donald. They challenged me to be the best I could, to take advantage of what was available. And when I had an assignment and I had a responsibility, they held me accountable for that. And I mean held me accountable. There was one instance where I was asked to do a report. I completely forgot about it. My social studies teacher called me as the first student up. I thought I could kind of tap dance through that because I had this gifted gab and everything, and he made it real clear that was not going to work in his class. And I learned something. I really did. But he was one of about 5 teachers that had that same standard. We know what you're capable of, Donald. This is what we expect, and we expect you to deliver. And when you don't, we want to let you know that. Well, they also gave me a chance to recover. Uh-huh. And I really felt that they were really interested in me. Sometimes we have reunions when I go back home, and my friends that I grew up with and went to school with, we all share the same stories. Those variations, but the same thing. That those teachers were the most instrumental teachers, even when we've completed college and everything. It's been in the service. It doesn't make any difference. Those teachers were, and I can't say they set the foundation because they weren't in elementary school, but they did, for lack of a better term, they shored it up, made it firmer, and gave us a great base to be from. Then, and then the community I lived in, this was back in the day, Steve, when I can remember this as a kid. I could not go any place in my neighborhood, and I'm talking about a 5-mile square area. That people didn't know my parents.
Really?
They knew where I was from, so I couldn't go out and get in trouble. And then the other thing was my mother had this high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
So when it was time to come home, I could not pretend to ignore that I didn't hear it, because as the neighbors would say, Donnie, your mother's coming in. I'm saying, oh, man, now I know I got to go home.
Yeah.
And by the same token, though, if I was doing something I wasn't supposed to,
Yeah.
they had no problem saying, Donnie, you know better than that.
Yeah.
Did you want me to tell your mother?
Yeah.
Or are you going to tell
you
your
want
mother?
to say something? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So were you a mischievous kid growing
No,
up?
I didn't think so, but I could talk.
You have the gift of gab.
And it was usually loud. So as a matter of fact, if I got in trouble at school, that was part of my biggest thing. I would, it's in moments where you're supposed to be quiet, you're supposed to be no talk, you're supposed to be focused on what the teacher's saying. Someone would say something to me, and I would respond, but because my voice is so loud, the only person that would hear talking would get me in trouble.
Your voice is wonderful. I don't think we're going to have any volume problems. My daughter, I used to say that she didn't need a cell phone. Hear her voice for like miles on end.
I was thinking about them. So where did I get this? I don't know, this persona or this idea of how I wanted to be a grandpa. And I was really thinking about it. And you know what I came up with? I came up with Santa Claus. I came up with Santa Claus, meaning that I think it was a whole lot of other images.
Yeah.
That and other individuals that I saw as grandpas, and then I was thinking about how I would want, the kind of grandpa I think I would want it to be. And then when I kind of put all that together, I came up with this image of Santa Claus, this person that is his focus is on these little kids, and that the spirit he brings is that it's always about being happy. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I love the little grandkids when they're between 18 months and about 5. And one of the rules that I have, because now they're able to walk and able to kind of get around, I have a little space down in the basement, and that's Grandpa's room, and they like to come down. And one of my rules is come down and have a good time, but come down and have fun. If you're going to start crying, you can go upstairs to your mama and cry. But we don't do that here. If you get hurt, then we'll work that out.
Yeah.
But the night is we have fun. So again, as I was thinking about this role model, whatever for me as a grandpa, it's sort of like with Santa Claus. He's got the list and he's checking it twice and all that. But the real focus is not about being bad. It's about being good and having a good time and enjoying each other, and that spirit of just enjoying these special little spirits.
It sounds like to me that being present, you
being engaged.
You are there.
Absolutely.
Instead of kind of like,
absolutely
checking your phone.
Oh, when one of the things, and matter of fact, my wife would tease me because I said, I'll do everything, but I'm not changing diapers. And I said, I had that issue with my own kids. I said, in an emergency, but trust me, I will do that.
Yeah.
But for me, that's not one of the fun experiences. Yeah. But other than that, I'm engaged.
You're down.
I'm with that.
Yeah.
There was a time when some of the grandkids in California were getting a little older. They were probably early teens. We were out shopping, and we were going through, we were picking up things, and one of the youngest son, grandson picked up a hat. It might be we were in the Tartars, picked up a hat, but then we kept moving through the store, and he didn't put the hat back. So he decided that he was just going to drop it off someplace, and I take it back. And the oldest grandson said, "Oh, no. Grandpa's not going to tolerate that. You have to take that hat back." So, and the way he said that, the way the oldest grandson said that, Steve, it made my heart just go boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Because I realized if he had picked up on some things on the way that I expect them to behave and to act, but for things that we were doing having fun. So the whole idea with taking a hat back to me was that this was a fun activity. Taking a hat back was still part of the fun activities. So like that, and again, it's that part about being engaged. I just love that. And to your point, my grandfather was not engaged. And I've realized that there were a lot of parents, period, that were not engaged. I mean, they were nice, they were family. I mean, they were loving. I don't mean to say that they weren't loving. We just weren't engaged.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could say that every time I'm with my grandkids, I am there. But talking to you makes me want to be more there. I just think that we have so much to learn that all grandfathers know that there's some areas that they could pick it up. They could, kind of take it to the next level. That's one of the reasons why we've got this, this channel.
Well, that's one thing. Even with me, I'll tell you, there is a bit of a double-edged sword there, because I think sometimes, and I don't know if it's because my grandkids are not my grandkids by blood, and I think sometimes parents feel, I won't say threatened, but because the grandkids' biological grandfather is still alive, I'm sort of in
You're an interloper.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, no one's actually said anything, but sometimes I feel like there's a sense that we don't want Grandpa Donald to have as much time or get as close to the grandkids in lieu of my father getting close to my kids.
But sometimes they don't.
And that's exactly right. And that's the point I was getting at, was he was not engaged. He wasn't doing it. He didn't take advantage of the opportunity. And one of the things I shared with you the other day was the biggest thing that I think that makes this really work for me, Steve, is that they've given me access. And I took advantage of that. And I continue to try to wear that out, because I just don't, number one, I really think it's a blessing for me. It's an answer to my prayers. It's even an answer to unanswered.
You didn't know.
But unspoken prayer. It is just a wonderful experience for me. And I enjoy it.
Tell me, over time, you start out with just small grandkids, and then over time they get older and stuff. Do you see your role change a little bit, or do you lean on experiences and you bring your life experiences in? And are you kind of changing with the times, but more importantly, the ages of your grandkids?
That's, for me, the role doesn't necessarily change, but the interaction is different. Number one, the biggest thing is time. More specifically, timing, meaning that when they're real little and they're over at Grandpa and Grandma's house 3 or 4 times a week, and you have them all to yourself, is one thing, as opposed to in junior high school, and then the parents can't even get them out of their room. So they don't even have access to them, let alone
Do you hope that there's a residual affection that helps you get through?
Oh my goodness. It's I have a set of grandchildren, 3 of them, and the girls, 2 granddaughters, I don't see as often as I do the grandson. I have a basketball hoop that's right in my driveway, and so the grandson is out there most of the time. So I get to see him all the time. And
how old is he?
He's 13.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. He'll be 13 next month. But there have been times when he's been out there and it's just been the 2 of us. And his friends are out there, nobody else is shooting hoops, nobody else is distracting or taking away from my time. And he'll just ask something. We'll just talk about something. So I know that the bond is there. The same thing with his sister. I know the bond is there. Is it different in my mind? No, it's not different. I'm not as physically engaged, though. That's a difference. Am I still engaged? Absolutely. His sister, and he's in a set of twins. His sister is practicing, or she's actually engaged in the not a drum line, in the cheers floor, and she was practicing some things the other day outside. She and her mom were out there, and she was kind of practicing. And when she finished, I took her aside and said, it is just a wonderful sight to see you doing this, because I remember when you were smaller, when you were younger. You wouldn't have been doing this. But not that same activity, it's just to see, and I wanted to acknowledge to her the maturity that I've seen in that. And also for me, again, to your point, is that I'm still engaged with that. And one of the challenges, though, again, you talk about the relationships here, again, is that proximity. Grandkids that have been close, out of the 32, there's probably, do a quick head count here, 9 that I've had, for lack of a better term, the closest relationship with, simply because of proximity. They were there. The other bulk, I do not. But the relationship, I like to think, is still just good, because when I have been with them, I'm still engaged. I come to their house. As a matter of fact, the youngest, is he the youngest? Yeah, he's the youngest. The youngest grandson, I didn't get to see him that often as he was growing up. But when we did get together, when he came over to my place, or I went over to his house, I went down on the floor playing with trucks and Legos. And I had to let you know a little secret. One of the things that makes this thing so easy for me is I love playing with toys. I love playing with toys. Matter of fact, I was thinking coming over here, I said, I wonder what kind of toys Steve has.
You know, we got lots of.
Yeah, I still like that. I still love that when it comes time to, and that's one of the disappointing parts for me when, as the grandkids grow up, because there was a disappointing part for me when my kids grew up, when they stopped playing with toys. Oh my goodness, Steve, I enjoyed that.
We've got huge buckets of Legos, and Star Wars this and Star Wars that. I have to tell you that hasn't been one of my fortes playing. But, you know, I love the mind's eye image of seeing you and seeing grandpas on the floor trying to put things together. We have these magnet tiles that the kids really love too, the grandkids. Now, I've got a kind of a goofy question for you. When we went to dinner the other night, you mentioned that I want to hurry and make sure you understand Donald was not an inmate, but you spent time tell me explain to me what you did. And then here's the question. What things did you learn from that, maybe that helped you with life in general?
Well, clear up some
misconceptions.
Please, yeah. I actually was invited. I was working with a nonprofit group, and one of the members of the group, I got to get him around my mouth, talking about being able to help people and all of that. Invited me to go to a prison in the state of California. Mm-hmm. And I just have this thing about, regardless of what they've done, they're still people. And so anyway, I went and I fell sort of I realized how much love I have for people, and especially for those that are making some changes in their lives, or going through some changes, and about to have an opportunity to make things better. So we were in this group that was called a pre-release group. They're within about 30 days of being placed on parole and not being incarcerated any longer and returning to civilian life. I did that for a number of years just as a volunteer, and then I was invited to actually apply for a position working at a county jail as a facilitator, as drug substance abuse counselor, and then they wanted me to do a basic parenting class. At basic parenting class, I knew that's why I was there. When people are incarcerated, they're separated from their children. And then I think this basic parenting class, what are some basic things to be aware of as you and being engaged. And one of the big points I wanted to give, things I learned, I lost my father when I was very young, was that for a number of different reasons, parents are separated from their children. When they have an opportunity to be re-engaged with their children, to take advantage of that, and to not allow these other things that have less value to get in the way, and to take advantage of the resources that are available, take advantage of the proximity, and especially take advantage of the time. And in preaching that, it reminded me and helped me to stay balanced. Balance is not the right word. I would say stay focused and remember what's really important.
Stable.
And so if it's anything that I learned, it was a reinforcement.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. The idea of focusing. There's an old Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young song called "Love the One You're With." Love the One You're With. It's a great song. It's not a fabulous message.
Yeah.
But one of the lines is, love the one you're with. I could be a lot better, Donald, focusing in the moment and being with whatever grandchild I'm with rather than worrying about this, that, or the other thing. And I think that would improve my grandparenting to a great degree if I could do that.
We don't want to be just another child or another employee or another anything. We want to think that we're unique, and we really are. Yeah. And unfortunately for us, just the way life is, we don't necessarily get that acknowledgement as frequently as we need it. I would say even more, but as we need. And so again, that's why for me it's been a blessing that to be able to be in a position to even have the desire to do that, just as you expressed when we acknowledged it. Well, gee, I think I can make some change. They would do that. No qualm asking the grandkids, what if all of you? What can I do?
Really?
What can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do?
Did you ever get any surprising answers to that?
Now that's a question on the spot. Yeah, because for me, I wouldn't say that it was. The reason I don't think this necessarily is a surprise is because I'm really kind of expecting anything because I'm genuinely want to see what I can do. So the surprise for me, if there's any, is if they were to come up with something that I could not do and I could not figure out how to pull this thing off. So that would probably be disappointing for me. And I'm trying to think of that because I know there have been some times when I said, oh man, how am I going to pull this off? How am I going to pull this off?
Yeah.
I'm going to pull this off. The times, though, when I've realized, as a matter of fact, I do know. There were a couple of times we had a grandson that had some challenges. Had some legal challenges. And I was wondering how we were going to pull this off. And before he actually got into trouble, I could tell because of my experience. I've been working in the jails and prisons. I'd seen this pattern. Even before working in jails and prisons, I've seen the pattern. And I would ask, I won't use his name, but I would say, what should we be talking about? And it was such a wonderful feeling when he would actually see, Grandpa, I really don't know. The Grandpa, if I know, I would tell you.
Wow. Yeah. I think that sometimes I want to pussyfoot around this a little bit, but I think that we as grandpas are subject to, or that we receive inspiration, personal revelation, however you want to say it, ideas that kind of come into your head. And fairly recently, one of my kids was having a really, really hard time, and I didn't have an answer. I just didn't. Yeah. And I said a little quick prayer in my head. I just said, I don't have an answer. Do you have an answer for this? And he did. And I ran with that, and I did claim it as my own because it came out of nowhere. And it turned out to be something really, really good. But I think there are times when you get kind of wrung out emotionally. Either you're stressed out with work or stressed out with family responsibilities, and I'm not pulling in the inspiration and it could be my problem, or it could be just that I need to be more humble and take it to the Lord and ask him what he needs to do, which kind of leads me to the next area that I want to discover. You are a man of faith, of great faith. I know that. And how do you share your faith with your grandkids?
Part of that answer for me, Steve, is one of the things that I did when the grandkids were real little, and it got me in some trouble with their parents. But when they were starting to learn how to talk, the parents will always say, use your words, use your words, use your words. So as I'm engaging with them, I'm basically asking them to do the same thing. So when I would ask them a question, having a conversation, I would sometimes have to turn around and look at mom or dad and say, let him answer the question. I'm talking to him. And I've shared that part of the story, of my story, because for me, that's part of the faith thing for me. My relationship with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ is really a one-on-one. I've got other people with me on this journey, but it's one-on-one. So when I'm having this interaction with them, I have to use my words. I have to be able to express. It's not my parents. It's not going to be my brother, my sister, my uncle, my grandpa that's going to have this conversation. And I'd like to think that I'm sharing that idea, that concept about this relationship with the grandkids. As well with other people in my life, but especially with the grandkids, because as I'm sharing my faith with them, I want it to be a reflection. As I'm interacting with grandkids, that's exactly right. So So if I'm asking the grandkids to share with me, to express themselves with me on their own in the moment that they're feeling right now, I like to think that that's a reflection of this is how you interact with Heavenly Father Jesus Christ. The same thing, the exact same thing, because you're still in this innocent mold. You're still in this innocent mentality. There's limited biases engaged here, and so that should be, in my mind, that's the same way relationship I want to have with Heavenly Father Jesus Christ, and I want you to have that same relationship with them, like you and I have.
Right.
I want that.
Yeah. So you model it. And have there been instances where you felt like you've had inspiration come to you?
Now I have to go run down the list. There's just been so many of those. And it's not necessarily even where there's been a difficult or some type of moral issue, some big issue. Just in, maybe back this up. When I decided to marry my wife with 8 children, there are already grandchildren in place.
Wow. Yeah.
They're already in place. Part of my acknowledgement in marrying a woman with 8 children was knowing that I'm stepping into a particular role that is different and unique. Even though I know I'm a result of being in a role where there's a step parent. So as I'm debating, as I'm trying to rationalize, you realize what's going to happen here, Donald. You're still in America, but you just start trying to think about the implication. I'm always looking for, and was looking for then, inspiration. And then receiving an answer to that inspiration, that Donald, just be Donald. Absolutely true. Right. Absolutely true. I made my mind that I already knew the type of grandpa I wanted to be, the kind of parent that I wanted to be. I didn't know quite sure the kind of step parent I wanted to be. I knew the kind of step parent I did not want to be. I had that real clear in my mind. So as I'm living with it, and again, because I love people anyway, and I want to be engaged anyway. If the relationship is that important to me, I'm saying you got to be engaged. So it's almost, I won't say it was a natural tendency to do what I did, because I really think there was a lot of learned things, and meaning that I knew how I wanted to be, which to me, I had this idea that know who you want to be, and know what the rules and standards and guidelines and values that you had, and stick to that, and stay authentic, with everybody you need. And so when it came to the grandkids, it was like a little thinker on it.
So let me turn this on you. What do you think the regulations, and I love that idea, what are the regulations of the grandfather? What kind of jump out? What are
with to others?
Yeah, okay.
As you would want them to do these. Be the kind of person to others that you would want to be into. And so again, as we started the conversation, I knew the type of grandfather that I wanted. I knew the grandfather that I wanted to be. So that rule, that standard, that mold was already there. All I did was just be Donald.
I'm struck by the fact that you're Donald because you had these wonderful teachers back in Baltimore.
They're part of it. It's not just they're part of it.
Yeah. I mean, you've got this army virtually of people.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So here's the question for you. You're 76. Sure. What advice would you have for a 46-year-old guy who maybe he's got a daughter or son that they're expecting when they might, looking back, all these decades, what kind of advice would you give them about being a good grandfather? They see this amazing miracle of a baby.
Some go broken record here, but I come back to the golden rule. And work that as best you can. You know what's in your heart, and if there's any changes that you need to make, just as I would tell the men in prison and jail, if there's any changes that you need to make, the key things are the changes that you want to make, and know the reason why you're making those changes. And is that person worth it? And if you're talking all this love in your heart, you've already identified that, yes, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so what do you have to do?
Mm-hmm.
And then work on.
Is there a particular moment that you can think of? This is putting you on the spot.
Again.
I'm good at that. I'm a lawyer.
Thank you.
Is there a moment that where your heart's just bursting because you're so grateful? I mean, do you see something or something, it happens to you where you go, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
It's funny you mentioned that because it doesn't involve the grandchildren. It actually involves one of the adult children
Mm-hmm.
of my wife. And coming out of the chapel, it's just this past Sunday, coming out of the chapel, she's coming out of the bishop's office, and she says, "Grandpa!" Because that's what she calls me, and that's what the kids call me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to take her aside until yesterday, as a matter of fact, to tell her what that meant for me. And I said, don't tell me that it wasn't just pure joy seeing me, and that's what that was all about. Don't tell me it was some other reason. And she decided to tell me it was some other reason, but she said, but I was still excited to see you, bro. But to have a stepdaughter
Mm-hmm.
call me Grandpa, and it was with affection, and it was almost the way she said it, the expression on her face. Easily 20, 30 people, this little group there kind of bunched up, coming out of the chapel in the hallway. But it was just as if she was 5 or 6, and she was coming out of Sunday school or something, and just, Grandpa! I could have died and gone to heaven right then and said, this is good for me.
Right.
This is good for me.
Yeah.
And this was not even one of the grandkids.
I don't know if you'd agree or disagree with me, but by being a good grandpa and teaching and loving, I think there's a residual effect for the parents because they see you inside doing all this stuff. And I think that it blesses not only the grandchild, but I think it blesses your children, your stepchildren, when they see you lovingly involved, with their kids. And when I say, how do I share my faith with my grandkids, is part of why I think that's important is that I think by sharing my faith with my grandkids, I'm also sharing it kind of tangentially with my children.
Yes.
You're a great example, Donald, of so many different people just by the force of your ebullient personality. Just, I just love that story of Grandpa. Is there anything else that you would want to say?
Well, one thing, Steve, I'm going to challenge you on the good grandpa. Because I think that anybody that takes that title on is already a good grandpa. We just do it. We do it what works for us. I like to believe that in that grandparent's heart, if he or she calls themselves a grandparent, they're already good.
Mm-hmm.
They're already good.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just working to get better.
Yeah, I think maybe we sometimes need to give ourselves some credit.
Exactly.
But then there's sometimes I think when we need to kick ourselves in the thighs.
Yeah, that's what that's.
And so,
Cool.
and then that's what my wife's for. Story. So we're on this family trip. It's a mind's eye picture. We're on this family trip, and I have this cute little 2-year-old. She is full of life, and she's wonderful. And she has a little cousin who's 4 years old that she adores. Mm. So we're out on the hike, and she comes over to this cousin that she just thinks is the best thing since sliced bread. And she lays her head on her chest. I almost started bawling. It was just so beautiful, and it was just an expression of love. And I think that although I'm considerably older than 2 years old, I think that we as grandpas, we can, make sure we give proper and wonderful expressions of love and encouragement, to our grandkids, because they're not getting it from the world. I just think it's just a wonderful thing. And I'm so glad that you're my friend. And we want to thank Donald for coming here and wish all of you happy grandfathering. So thank you. That's it for today's episode of the Grandpa Channel. Leave a review, share it with a friend, or better yet, tell your favorite grandpa. We're on a mission to gather 1 million grandpas, storytellers, wisdom keepers, and lovable wild cards. Until next time, keep the mic hot, the memories fresh, and the jokes just slightly inappropriate. I'm out of here.